Welcome to the Property Renovation Podcast. For anyone who loves renovation, wants to save money, and to learn the best tips and tricks of the industry. And now, your host, 3 times award winner of leading renovation website Houzz, and over 15 years in the industry, renovating just over 200 properties, James Woodham.
Hey guys, welcome to the Property Renovation Podcast. This is an audio and video podcast. We're just getting used to doing these, so I hope you enjoy it. Now, this episode is about signing off work. Now, I just want to put the picture out there. So you're just about to complete on a renovation. You've had a building company in, and you just need to make sure that the worker's been happy. So how are you going to find that out? Are you going to go round? You're going to have a look? And do you know what you're looking at? There's things that you might miss, but someone that's been in the industry, if they had a look around, probably they'll point it out for you. There could be that the building company points it out too. And that would just show that they're honest and they're passionate about the job that they're doing. Or they might not necessarily point it out, and they'll hope that you won't either. So I've just got a list here of like the stages that you would go through, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about each stage and what to look out for in certain areas. So right from the beginning, you've got protection of all of the areas that they're going to be working in. And then you've got the rip out. And then you've got the disposing of everything. And then you've got the first fix, second fix of electrics and plumbing. You've got the carpentry, tiling, painting. And then you've got things like a silicone application where they just seal around any corners and joints, and then just cleaning up everything after that. That's just to name a few. But so you don't want to be in a position where you're not happy with some works, but you don't really say nothing. And then you get to a point later on and you mention it, and it's probably too late then to have anything corrected. So you want to be saying it early on. And you can have some signing off pieces of paper, which would literally just state that you're happy or you're not happy and what you're not happy about. And then you can just tick it off as you go. And then you've got a firm list of everything you're not happy with, and they've understood that. Now, I'm just going to start from the beginning about protection. So protection, you just want to make sure that they're using the right materials in the right places. So if you've got hardwood floors, such as an engineered board or a laminate board that's down in your hallway or your walk areas where they're going to be walking and treading at each time, you don't want to just accept a dust sheet which is just made of cotton, because anything can happen. Some stones can be underneath, they could end up scratching your floor. So you want to make sure that they're taping down some really hard plastic. It's actually called Cortex or Corex, and they should be putting that down. It's about 2 to 3 millimeters thick, and then it can stay down, and it's very durable. So when they're walking in and out, they're not going to damage what's underneath. So make sure that you don't just settle for a dust sheet. Dust sheets can go over your furniture and stuff like that, but not really on any hardwood floors. So yeah, ripping out. Now, if they're going to be ripping out everything, are they disposing of everything? Are you disposing of everything? So if they are, you want to make sure that they're putting them in some really hard, durable bags that are not going to split as they're going out, as they're going out of the house, so they don't fall over and everything goes all over the place. You want to make sure that if they are disposing of it, they're disposing of it correctly. So they are either using themselves in a van and they're taking it to a trusted tip site, or they've hired someone to come in, like a skip, and they're going to be loading everything up in there as well. You also want to just check certain things, like if they've got a skip, then are they going to be putting it on your property? So maybe just check to make sure that no damage is made from them putting it on your property. And maybe make some precautions to stop to limit the damage that can be caused. First fix electrics. You just want to think about like all your light switches, your double sockets, single sockets, all of those kind of things. You want to make sure that they've got them at the right height, they're centered, they're level. You don't want, no missing screws. Have a good look at the screws as well to make sure that they're not busted where they've been screwing them in too tight maybe. And just give them a play about. Make sure that they're fixed quite securely against the wall, and, they're not moving at all. If you've got like some chrome sockets or some stainless steel sockets. Just have a look, make sure that they've got no scratches around the sides and stuff like that. Make sure they've been really, really careful when they've been fitting them. Again, for the First Fix plumbing as well, make sure that they've got all the points in the right positions. Make sure that the height is there. Make sure that it's centered to exactly where you want it, so that there's no, have a really good look at the pipework. Make sure there's no like really tight bends or some dents in the pipework and stuff like that. Make sure that there's no messy solder joints. Make sure there's like no solder all over the floor where they've just been burning the solder to connect the copper together. And make sure that they do a test as well. So on the First Fix, where you got all your plumbing in, before everything starts getting boarded up and covered up so that you don't know if there's going to be a leak, I would suggest that you turn back on the water and you put some stop caps or some isolator valves, which basically just shuts off and stops the water going everywhere else. And then turn the water back on and leave it on for a good 24 to 48 hours, just to make sure that there are no leaks or really like small little sweaty leaks that are coming out of the joints. Just have a real good look. With carpentry, you want to make sure that all of the skirting and the architraves have been mitered correctly. So the join in the corners are perfect. You don't really want to be seeing anything more than 2 millimeter thick gap. Hopefully, if someone's really good, they're going to only give you a very, very, very small gap that can just be then filled with some caulking or stuff, some filler or something like that. And you don't want to be seeing any large gaps anywhere when with the carpentry. And if there is, then you want to be looking out if they have filled it with this caulking or filler and it's just all over the place. It looks like a large piece of white gap in between the wood. And then if they're fitting your kitchen, you just want to make sure that the kitchen cabinets have lined up. So they're all like together and they're screwed and supported against the wall. Make sure that they're level as well. Make sure that the worktop joints are close together. Now, if you're having a laminate worktop fitted and they've got to cut it in the corner, then it's actually a joint there, and that takes quite some skill to do something like that. So you just want to make sure that not only is the joint really clean, but also it's been bolted underneath. There should be 2 key bolts that keep a joint together on a laminate worktop, and also for a wooden worktop as well. And make sure that there's no holes, like in your architrave and your skirting, you've got knots in the wood. So you just want to make sure that you've bought enough. Hopefully you've bought enough timber to make sure that there's some smooth pieces, no knots in it, and no holes in it, no indentations as well. So you just want to be making sure that it's perfect. With the tiling, you need to be checking all the grout lines, because now the grout lines are the gaps in between the tiles, and it's necessary for them to be there just in case of any movement. And you just want to be making sure that they are all the right size and that the spacers are not stuck inside in between the tile, because that's not the way to do things either. Spacers are actually used so that as a temporary basis before any grout. They're not supposed to be left in there after. So you want to be having them taken out before they grout. And then when the grout's there, you just want to make sure that it's all one consistent line. For wall tiles, you're looking at around 2 to 3 millimeters of a grout line. For the floor, maybe 3 to 5 millimeters, but not really any bigger than that. Look at the tiles, make sure there's no cracks. Some of the cracks can be very fine, so you just want to make sure that there's you have a real close look. Make sure you've got some good light when you're looking at it as well. Make sure there's no chips in the tiles, especially on the edges as well, because when the tiles are being used to be cut on machines, the tile, especially if they're ceramic, they end up being bashed up against the machine sometimes, and if someone's not careful, they're going to end up doing a small chip. And that chip, especially if it's a glazed tile, is going to end up being a rough surface, and then that can end up getting a bigger chip. So you just want to make sure that there's no chips on the tiles. So have a real good look. Make sure there's no imperfections in the tiles as well. Tiles sometimes come with imperfections, so you just want to make sure that they have had a look at all of the tiles and made sure that, there are no imperfections when they've been fitting them. If you're working with any stone or some porcelains, you want to be making sure that once they've installed the tiles, that they've applied a seal, and it's like a clear solution, and they put that on top of the tiles and let it dry for 24 to 48 hours before they grout it. And that just stops anything like staining. It kind of impregnates the tile to make sure that no grout goes inside the tile and stains the tile. So make sure that happens too. Make sure they're all even as well. Make sure you look at the corners and that all of the cuts are the same distance, and make sure that, even if your wall does curve, that the cuts go with it. You don't want to be seeing that they've tried to follow a straight line when your wall isn't actually straight, and then you've got like gaps going all the way up. So you want to be making sure that they've taken that into consideration. Painting, just make sure that there's no peeling of the paint, that they've done the correct amount of layers. There's no shadows, no paint bleeds around your windows, and where they've put the masking tape up against your carpet, that that the paint hasn't bled through, and that it's all an even finish. You want to be making sure that it's all an even finish as well. The second fix, plumbing, you just want to be, this is when you've got all of the basin and the toilet and the bath and everything being fitted. So you just want to make sure that these are your most precious pieces. These are the things that you're always going to see. So making sure that there are no scratches, no damages, making sure that the toilet is screwed down onto the floor and it's not just fixed by silicone and stuff like that. So you want to making sure that they're using the screws. Make sure that the basin is level. So, put a level on top of it, making sure it's level as well. And that, again, that's fixed against the wall. With the bath, stick a level on that as well, making sure that that's level, making sure that they've got a frame around it. If it needs a frame, so making sure it's got a timber frame around it, and that you've got access points. So with anything that's any waste or access to taps and stuff like that, you need to be making sure that you've got access points to that. So if you're going to be thinking that I want a really nice tiled bath panel, then you want to be able to make sure that you've got access to that at certain points. You don't really want to be pulling off 10 to 15 kilograms of a bath panel with tiles all over it. So you want to maybe have a section where you can get in there and check to make sure that you can access those bits as well. Making sure that all of the pipework has got isolator points on it, and by that I mean it's a fitting for pipework where you can get a screwdriver, literally turn it to horizontal, and it will shut the water off, but just in that area. So you don't have to think about shutting all of the mains off from the whole entire apartment or house. So these are just isolating the water to the bathroom or to the kitchen, for instance. So make sure that they've got all of those. Check the pressure. So make sure that you make sure that you check the pressure before any work is done. That's part of another episode when we're doing property damage checklists and stuff like that. But if you've got good pressure, when you've got the second fix going in, have a test to see whether it's the same pressure that you had previously, and if not, bring it up. Have a chat with the plumber about it and ask him why. Checking for leaks, check for the water temperature as well. So turn your shower on, making sure that the water is the right temperature. If it's not, it's usually because it's a new shower valve and it just needs the thermostat to be adjusted a little bit. So maybe just have a word with the plumber about that too. Then you've got your second fix, electrics. Now, just making sure that you've got even plug sockets, they're not loose, just like I spoke about before. Turn on all of the lights, making sure that they all work in the right areas. And if you've got any dimmers, then make sure that they work too. Make sure that they're the right zones as well. So just to go back to the bathroom a minute, if you've got some down lights which are coming through the ceiling, or any lights really, they need to be zone 1 or zone 2. Now you can go online and figure out exactly what zone 1 and zone 2 is, but it's just about being safe where any electric is against water. So you want to go and make sure that they are installing the right zone lighting in your bathroom. And by that, you can just have a look at the boxes. If they're going right next to the bath or within 1 meter, 1.5 meters of a shower or a bath, then they have to be zone 1. Anything outside that can be zone 2. So you just want to, you can go online and you can have a look. There's some really good infographics about that. Now, when it comes down to finishing everything off, this applies to some silicone or caulking. Now, by that I mean the chemical, the silicone that actually secures all of the joints and stops any water ingress through the tiles and through the corners in the joints. So it's a tricky one, but usually you would get in a professional. So if you've just spent a good 15 grand on a new bathroom, you don't really want just anyone doing your silicone. It's a skilled thing to do. So you want to make sure that it's being done with patience, it's being done right. And a good way to tell is to make sure that it's always a continuous line. There's no thick bits and no thin bits. It's a continuous line. And it's an equal amount on both surfaces. So if you think about your bath up against your tiles, then that needs to be about a 3mm bead of silicone. So 1.5 of that should be on the bath. 1.5 of that should be on the tiles. So it's just an equal distance, and that it's all one continuous line. If it's not, then you want to ask to have it done again. I mean, it can really stand out, but if you're looking at clear silicone, sometimes it's really hard to point that out. But you still want it done right. Any unequal silicone that's not done right can actually end up peeling off, water can get behind it, and then you're starting all again. So you want to make sure that it's done. There are professional silicone applicators that just do that as a job, and they can range from anything, including silicone. It can cost around about £150 in the UK. So you want to make sure, I mean, it's definitely worth it, because it's one thing, especially if you've got white tiles up against black silicone, you want to make sure that it's done perfectly. So just consider it. Plumbers can do it, and they always do it, but you want to be picking someone that's very, very good at doing it. So maybe ask them to do a test. Maybe ask them to show you how it's done. And if you're happy with the way that he's doing it, then let them continue. But if not, I would look at getting someone in that can do it as a professional. And finally, we just got about the cleaning. Now, building companies sometimes charge for this and they include it within their quotation. But other times you just want to be making sure that they do take it on. You don't want to be the one that ends up cleaning your entire apartment after some renovation works. I don't know, you might do, but ideally it would be good if that was done by a professional, and then you can start to enjoy it straight away. So just ask and make sure that they're either covering it, and if not, if they can cover it. And then when they do come in, make sure that they're cleaning everywhere. So not just in the areas where they worked, but in the areas where they walked, in the areas where dust may have got and the doors weren't shut, so maybe your living room or your kitchen. But you need to be making sure that they give your house a full clean over. Maybe not necessarily like, you know, if they're just working on one floor, maybe just go one floor above, depending on how many floors you've got. But you do want to be making sure that they give it a real good clean over. Clean outside as well. If they've been working out in your back garden or your front garden cutting tiles, you want to be making sure that all of the dust and all of the ceramic residue is all cleaned away. But that's about it, really. It's just a short episode, and I hope that was very helpful to you. The ultimate point, in summary, I would just say that when you're having works done at certain stages, really have a good look around. Spend the evening having a good close look around. Write down any of your concerns. And if you're not too sure, get a second opinion. Get someone to come in and say, do you think this looks right? And if not, then you've got a chance to speak to your contractor. So I hope you enjoyed this episode and look forward to doing the next episode. Thank you very much.